We're sitting here talking about the dynamic of the Brock Purdy conversation, why it sounds the way it sounds. Forget how he looks, forget numbers. Is he good? Is he great? Is he somewhere in between? What have you? Is he just a product of the system? But why does the conversation sound as it does? And I compared him not to Steph Curry, the player, the accomplishment, the greatness. I compared the dynamic to something that Steph Curry faced for a number of years in the NBA, which was bigger, stronger, faster players really being hesitant to let Steph be a part of the club, if you will. LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, rolling their eyes in press conferences. It was like, whoa, you got kind of locked up there by Steph. And Westbrook was like, are you kidding me? That spaghetti noodle is not going to stop me. And then it got to the point, finally, after many years, where people were like, okay, Steph is an all-time great. Now, who knows where Brock's career is going, but I do think that that's part of this. People have a hard time figuring out where to put Brock in a conversation that for years now has started and to a degree ended with the names like Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, maybe now Hurts. There's a few other names, but they all look the same. They're all big, huge, strong dudes with big arms who walk into the room and you're like, oh my God. And I feel like you could walk into the Niner locker room. You might have to look right, look left, and look center before you're like, where's Brock? I didn't really see him here.
Yeah.
All these other guys are so big. Where's Brock?
He's over there with Moody and Wisnowski.
Right. He kind of looks like a kicker. Let's go to Trucker 23 in Cottage Grove, Oregon. Hey, Trucker, what are you doing?
Well, driving as usual, being a trucker and all. I actually wanted to call. Well, first of all, Priest had a really good call, and I think that's because of his age and what he's seen. Because let me tell you, I'm old school as well, and I watched Montana all the way from his rookie years, and style-wise, what he does, how he reads the defense is almost identical to Montana and Brady early years. I'm not saying by any means that he's going to be that, but he is the closest style comp that you can really find to those guys. And even the old school players, they make those comparisons because that's exactly what they see. They see that size issue and all of that jazz, and these are pretty much exact comps to those two. And we always want to comp to somebody great and all of that jazz. Definitely agree there. Also, the players, so the style category, I think that's why we want to make those comparisons there for those two. But, yeah, and as far as what you were saying about Steph Curry, you could fit any of those guys into that situation where they're comp to Steph Curry, where they're sitting there, they are the point guard, so to speak, of the team. So I don't see where that really says yes or no. I do definitely understand where they were keeping Steph Curry out of because they don't walk in as a dominant looking guy, and
right.
That's 100% why that compromise is like that.
No doubt, Trucker. I agree with all that, and I do understand. Thanks so much. I do understand Brock Purdy's name, nor should it, is not going to be anywhere near any of these people until he wins championships. So I remember watching Joe Montana. That was when I was first introduced into the game. But I wasn't old enough to, be listening to sports talk radio.
Right, there was no sports talk radio.
Yeah, they won that first Super Bowl on my 7th birthday. I was 7. So I wasn't
That's so cute.
I wasn't like, the Niners won the Super Bowl, but why are they saying that Joe is not as good as Ken Anderson?
He's a system guy, Dad. Tom, Ellen, I got to take.
Exactly.
Get in here.
And they were like, what are we going to do with this kid?
Totally.
No, so I get it. Like, they had to go through that. Brady had to go through that. So it's no different here. But I just think that's why it sounds the way that it sounds. And in a vacuum or in a moment where we sit right now, it leads to some sort of a predictive debate as to where this is going to go. And I think everybody should be comfortable with that. I have no problem with predictive debate. I don't know better than anybody else where this is going to go or how it's going to end up. I'm sort of trying to tap into the sound, the hesitancy, if you will, to let him into the club and what I also find is a bit of a diminishing of this start. Because it's one thing to pop into a league and look really good. It's completely different to pop into a league as a seventh rounder, fire drill, there's an injury, go get into the game. And then like a calendar year later, you've never lost a game that you finished. What on earth is that?
Right.
And somehow I hear a lot of people finding a way to explain it away as something other than really amazing.
I think it goes beyond the draft for me in terms of the remarkability of what he's done. And I think about Ben Roethlisberger in terms of what he did, 13-0 to start his career as a rookie. And it felt like that was given more plaudits than this is because he was a part of a great team.
It was.
And a great coaching staff, and they wound up going to the playoffs like Brock did when he took this team over. But it's because Big Ben, he had a nickname. And, Brock has a nickname, but it's not really for air, and it's not really as convenient as Big Ben. And, Roethlisberger was highly drafted, and he came in, and he did well. And Pittsburgh was a big brand, and they were a great team and all the rest of it. But Brock Purdy is in a spot where he's also with a good team and a big brand, and he's had great success. So why is he not getting that same level of respect and of accolades? I think part of it is the West Coast bias, and it's also partly Shanahan and the team around him, and it's also because he's small and he was a seventh-round pick.
Well, what's interesting with the Roethlisberger comp also is you're right, he won all the games, right? And he goes 13-0. So you can say, hey, this has happened before, 13-0. But the combination of winning but also statistical success. Like Ben Roethlisberger, that year that he went 13-0, had 17 touchdowns and 11 picks. He only threw for 2,600 yards. That's not the kind of stuff that Brock Purdy's doing. His QB rating was less than 100. Brock's is tops in the league. And Ben won Rookie of the Year. He won the Rookie of the Year award with those stats. So that's where that comp for me kind of goes in a little bit of a right turn, which is that the comp is the immediate success and the wins.
Sure.
And the obvious statement that, I'm good and I'm going to be here for a while. And Ben Roethlisberger had a Hall of Fame career.
Brock would have been Rookie of the Year had he gotten an extra month on the books.
You're probably right.
He ended up, fourth or fifth in Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, something like that. Like that.
I mean, I think that if he would have started, because Ben started 13 games as a rookie, and he went 13-0. So if Brock would have gotten 4 more games, if he would have gotten all the Jimmy games, and if he would have gone 10-0 and then gone into the playoffs at 10-0 and then won 2 and then lost 1, he would have been Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, just traditionally when a guy does stuff like that, when you hear, product of surroundings, system QB, it looks more like this. You're winning, you got a great run game, you got a great defense, and your stats are kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
They're like, fine, like you're doing a good job. But Brock's stats are not mediocre. They're not. He's got 0 interceptions and over 1,000 yards passing in 4 games. JJ in San Jose, next up here on Willard and Dibs. Hey, JJ, what do you think?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. That's an interesting question. Not gonna lie. At first, it's like, okay, what's everybody watching, right? Obviously, he's pretty good. Obviously, he's, doing what he's supposed to be doing. Brock Purdy is looking like that guy. I think the reason why people think the way they think is because they, obviously, like in terms of sports, they got a lot of sports trauma because they feel like they've seen a couple good seasons, of Kaepernick, a couple good seasons of Alex Smith, and now they're on the Brock Purdy train, right? And I can, I'm a fan of the station. I'm a fan of all the shows. I can remember last year on a crossover where Willard was like, dude, this is the guy. And I think, some of the other guys, Vontae Shasky, were like, yeah, easy. We're not there yet because we saw the same thing with Kaepernick. I think after this year, that's when everyone's going to have their full establishment as to whether he's the guy or not.
Yeah, JJ, it's interesting. I remember those conversations as well, but I think we can split the difference a little bit. Okay, like, was that too early back then? I don't know. It's proven to be accurate. Was I ahead of myself? I don't know. You could have that
Take
opinion.
your victory lap.
No.
Let's go.
No, seriously. That was my predictive thought in the time. I was right that time. Great. Whatever. But
you should stretch out a little bit more on the I was right.
No, because what JJ is saying, though, is that after this year is when we'll have a full view. But I've already, for instance, I now dismiss small sample size. I think for a lot of people, like JJ's right in terms of, well, is this a championship quarterback or not? We don't know that yet. But like we've moved beyond small sample size. I think for a lot of people, they wanted to see him get through the injury and then come back, start the season as the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And then look like that was the correct decision. And that's been a total slam dunk. Kyle Shanahan's comment yesterday in responding to the whole product of his surroundings question when he goes, well, that's ridiculous. But did you hear what he said in there? He goes, it's been too long. He told the idea of, it's only been a few games. Because it's been way too long. You like the sample size conversation to me is over. It's not been 4 games. It's been like 13.
Yeah, 12, yeah. 9 regular season starts. And if you want to count the Miami game, you can, because that was basically a full game. But 9 starts in the regular year. He's 9-0. 3 starts in the postseason. He's 2-1. The one loss he had, he got knocked out.
Right.
And the Miami game, if you want to give him that win, you can. And so if you add Philly and the 3 playoff and then the Miami game, you're talking about 13 games.
13
That's
games.
almost a full season. And you look at Ben. Big Ben was 13-0 to start his career in 13 regular season games. And I was just looking at the game log, and in 4 of those 13 games, they had more rushing yards than they did passing yards. And I don't think that any of these games have gone that way for Brock Purdy.
For Brock Purdy? I can't remember any. We could look that up. But you're probably right. Part of that is the difference in the NFL. But what's also
true, and he had Deuce Staley and Jerome Bettis.
Yeah,
so.
but I think that if you look back at that time, the really encouraging thing for 49er fans is that it was real. Ben Roethlisberger went on to be a Hall of Fame, level career. He went on to be a Super Bowl champ, and he got better. Like, he did become the guy who could throw for over 4,000 yards. And I still think that about Brock, too. Like, that's the most encouraging. I think we sort of forget that. We're like, yeah, the guy's played in 13 football games. He could get better. He should get better. He's still a young player.
Right. And you would expect that Shanahan would probably not want him to go out and throw for 5,000 yards because this team is still built on the run game. But can he go for 4,000 this year? Well, he should.
He should.
And if he does, then that means that he's healthy and that Kyle Shanahan trusts him.
I'll promise you this. If he plays 17 games, he's throwing for over 4,000 yards. I'll promise that. He probably should, even if he only plays 16.
16 games at 225 a game is 4,000.
Yeah, he's up over 1,000 after 4.
Right, 17 games, and if you get to like 215 a game, that's 4,000.
Yeah, he'll do that.
So if you play 17 games and you don't throw for 4,000, then you got problems in this NFL.
There'll be a lot of teams that do not have a 4,000-yard QB. There'll be a lot.
Or even if they have 4,000 yards total, I wonder about.
Yeah. I mean, some guys
because already like Indy's had, the shoe has come in for Richardson, and
sure.
And you have a lot of situations that might be 2 QB anyway. But I wonder how many teams won't throw for 4,000 yards.
Here's the comment from Shanahan yesterday I was referring to. Shanahan's message to those who think Purdy's success is just because of the system.
That's pretty ridiculous. They just got to watch the tape. He plays at a high level every time he's been out there. He's done it in a lot of different situations versus a lot of different defenses, on the road, at home, in playoff games, when injured. You can't do all that stuff. He's been out there too long. It's on tape.
He's been out there too long. For these conversations to still be happening.
It's on tape.
It's there.
And stuff.
It's
on tape.
Yeah. Brock is one of 10 QBs to already be over 1,000 yards.
Okay.
In the NFL. So only 10 at this point. And there are like 5 more who are over 900. Also probably on pace for over 4,000 if they were to play a full 17 games. But that's only about half the league. It's only about half the league.
Only 9 teams last year had more than 4,000 yards passing.
Interesting.
Only 9 teams. And the Niners were not one of them.
Not one of them.
They had 38-56 as a team.
Some of that is injury, but some of that is stylistic.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the whole team, 49ers had 3 different starting quarterbacks and did not get there. Dak Prescott does not have 1,000 yards passing so far this year.
Yeah.
Just to throw that out there.
Well, and Dallas last year was one of the teams that did have 4,000 yards in passing offense.
Jalen Hurts does not have 1,000 yards passing yet.
Yeah. Actually, Dallas was not. Philly was 9th last year with 4,105. So I know Hurts didn't have 4,000 because he missed a couple games, or he missed a game. But in terms of team passing yards, only 9 teams last year got to 4,000. I'm surprised at that number.
Purdy has thrown for more yards than Patrick Mahomes this year.
Mahomes in Kansas City last year led football with 5,062.
Purdy has thrown for more yards than Patrick Mahomes with 31 fewer attempts.
Wow. Man, who's Captain Checkdown now?